Hello and good afternoon. It is another wonderful Thursday here at ajiwire.com, an NOSU program where we bring you news concerning the scheme and where we also discuss interesting topics. Now, you know how we do it here on Ajiwire program. We bring you interesting and exciting topics. And on today's edition, we will be talking about handling fire disaster. Now, there are cases whereby there will be a fire outbreak and the people don't know what to do. They just end up waiting for the fire services, and before the fire service could get there, maybe a lot of properties would have gotten burnt or something. But today we'll be telling you how to handle fire disaster, first aid approach to fire disaster, and everything you need to know about fire disaster, the causes, and also how to handle it. But before we go into that discussion, Ajiwire News comes up. Don't go nowhere.
Good day, viewers. You are listening to Ajiwire News. I am Edidion Uko. Before the news, first the headline. Abdul Wahab commends staff kickstart maiden knowledge sharing session. Now the news in details. The NYSC Osun State Coordinator, Mrs. Olayinka Abdul Wahab, has commended staff of the scheme in the state for their contribution to the success of the 2022 Batch B Stream 2 orientation course in the state. Abdul Wahab stated that the success recorded by the state was due to God's faithfulness towards the scheme and also the commitment and doggedness of the officials of the scheme. She therefore led members of staff to sing and appreciate God for the success recorded. The state coordinator also commended local government inspectors for their top-notch service delivery and promptness in response to instructions and attending to issues as at when due. She described them as the light of the scheme, as every input needed by the various branches and units emanates from them. Abdul Wahab, while addressing officials at a meeting in the state secretariat on Friday, called for the support of all members of the staff in achieving her drive towards upgrading some key sectors in the state. According to her, the NYSC Band, Cultural Crew, and the NYSC Foundation School needs to be upgraded for better performance and patronage. She noted that the state has one of the best band and cultural troupe in the NYSC formation nationwide and therefore needs to go public as this. She said it can be a source of IGR for the Secretariat. Speaking on the school, Abdul Wahab stated that the school needs more publicity for greater patronage as the school boasts of highly skilled and qualified manpower. To achieve all this and more, Abdul Wahab informed the House of her management's intention to carry out a highly sophisticated and elaborate program tagged NYSC Osun Hall of Fame, which will involve the scheme stakeholders and the creme de la creme of the society. Kickstarting the maiden knowledge sharing session after the meeting, Abdul Wahab spoke extensively on LGI-related matters and also secretarial workings. She stressed on the importance of developing a more positive mindset and disposition towards core members, and also on the need to master one's emotions in dealing with the clients of the scheme. Other branches and units took turns to share knowledge of the operations of their offices. The Assistant Director, Human Resource Management, Mrs. Mary Adebeshin, informed staff of the importance of having a red and blue pen with them, as minuting in files requires the two. She also addressed the members on mutual respect and proper dressing, urging them to contribute and adhere to best practices and etiquette. Mrs. Fumi Okundaye, the Assistant Director, Press and Public Relations, during her session informed the staff that they are all the image makers of the scheme as their actions can either make or mar the image of the scheme. She took them on a knowledge through the definition, functions, and some achievements of the public relations in the states. She called on them to always carry the unit along in all their activities and projects of core members that can be publicized to showcase the relevance of the scheme in the states. Speaking also, the Assistant Director, Deployment and Relocation, Mr. Lawal Tafik, the Assistant Director, Community Development Service, Mr. Felix Ayibiowu, the Assistant Director, Core Inspection and Monitoring, Mrs. Adeshina Omobode, the Assistant Director, Finance and Accounts, Mrs. Daramola Oblubumi, did an expository teaching exposing staff to the nitty-gritty of the DNR process and steps involved in carrying out the CDS projects, importance of the monthly and quarterly inspection of core members, and the various but avoidable mistakes core members make with regards to their allowance, and how this can be called by members of the staff respectively. The training session aimed at empowering members of staff with an enhanced working knowledge of the various branches and units of the scheme for greater efficiency and effective service delivery. That has been Ajuwaya News. Thank you for listening. Do join us next week, Thursday.
Okay, welcome back from that quick break, and thank you, Ms. Edidiong, for that Ajuwaya news. Now, before we went on that break, I said we'll be talking about handling fire disaster. And to do justice to that, I have the Vice President of FIDA's CDS Group, and he will be telling us how we can handle fire disaster and the causes of fire disaster. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
So can you briefly introduce yourself to my audience in the house? They really want to know you.
I'm by the name of Patola Ibrahim Oluwadamilare from FIDA's CDS Group, the Shogo local government.
Okay, thank you for that quick introduction. Now, what is FIDAS all about? Like, I know it's an abbreviation of something. What does it mean?
Yes, FIDAS is an acronym, and the FI stands for fire, the D stands for disaster, the A stands for awareness, the P stands for prevention, and the S stands for sensitization.
Okay, so your CDS group is you go out to sensitize people about fire disaster.
Yes.
Okay, so now what do you do? Like, what exactly do you do? Now we know that you sensitize people and everything. Now what does it take to do those things?
To sensitize people on the disaster in which fire can cause. Number one is what can cause fire, how to call it, how to curb it, and how to prevent it. If at all there is a fire outbreak, how to prevent it, how to protect themselves from the fire outbreak.
Oh, okay. So you create awareness on the causes of fire disaster, and how to curb it, and also how individuals can protect themselves when such disaster happens.
Yes.
Now, what exactly are the causes of fire disaster?
That will take us to classes of fire.
Okay.
We have 5 classes of fire, in which we have the things that can cause fire.
Okay.
Before I enter into classes of fire, we have 3 things that constitute fire. That's 3 agents that brings about fire.
Okay.
The first one is fuel. The second one is oxygen. And the third one is heat, which is called ignition. Now, without these three things, there can't be anything cause fire. Now, when we want to put off fire, we must take either of these things out to put off fire. So when these three things are in combination, that's when fire can come about. Now, this will take us to the 5 classes of fire. We have class A fires, we have class B, class C, class D, and class E. Class A fire are solid fires, that are fire outbreaks that comes from solid materials, such as wood, papers, nylons, and clothing, etc. Now, to curb those kind of fires, we have extinguishers that are perfectly made for those kind of classes of fire. We have in all the classes of fire, we have a universal extinguisher, which is DCP. That one is a chemical, is a dry chemical extinguisher. Now, when using this extinguisher, that's the most poisonous anyways. It cannot be easily found anywhere.
Exactly.
It can only be handled by the agents.
Experts.
Yes, by the experts.
Now,
the ones you can see everywhere in government parastatals, in offices, are CO2.
They are mild.
Yes, they are CO2. They are ordinary air. That's carbon dioxide. So that one can be used as the first aid agent to put up the fire. In case that one doesn't put it off, then that's when the intervention of the experts. Now, that's an example of extinguisher that can be used for the class A fire from solid materials. Now, the class B fires are liquid materials. These ones are fires that come from liquids such as kerosene, petrol, diesels, and etc. Now, when we want to put up this kind of fire, like I said earlier, the universal extinguisher is DCP. It can quench any kind of fire. Any classes of fire, it can put it off. But for liquid classes of fire, we can use powder extinguisher also. Now, we can use water extinguisher, but not ordinary water. Because if we use ordinary water, in water we have oxygen.
True.
And part of the agent that causes fire is oxygen. That means in chemistry, oxygen supports combustion. So now, if you are using ordinary water to put up fire, that means you are causing havoc.
Interesting.
If you use ordinary water to you shoot it to the fire, you will see that the fire will increase the more because of the presence of oxygen in the water. So it is advisable, if you want to use it at home, you want to put up fire at home, we add soap to it. So the soap in it will quench the power, will reduce the power of oxygen. So that's when it is being advised that when there is a fire outbreak in our homes, for us to be able to get out, mix detergent with water, then you splash it, you spray it. But don't ordinarily spray it. Just look for the source of the fire. Because if you spray it on top of the fire, it doesn't cause any. Yes, nothing will happen. So the source of the fire, that's when you will aim. Then the class C fires are fire that comes from gaseous materials. These are our cooking gas at home, gases from industries, all sorts of that. Now, from the fire outbreak from our, what's it called? Cooking gas we use at home, we can use fire blanket for that one. Because it's just a small distance. You can use fire blanket. Fire blanket has a fire resistance of 3 minutes. Once it's after 3 minutes, it becomes a fuel.
Wow. That means you have to be very fast.
Very, very fast about it. That's when we are talking about when we are bleaching oil. And it catches fire. You can use fire blanket to cover it. It will go off. If we mistakenly on our cooking gas and we forgot, then light it, then the thing explode, we can use fire blanket or a damp towel.
Okay.
Not ordinary, not a dry towel, a damp towel.
Because a dry towel will get burns.
Yes.
Okay.
Or a damp blanket.
Interesting.
So all those things are the ones that I'm talking about, the professional way of quenching the fire, and also the one we can easily use at home.
Okay.
So now when we go to class D fires, there are fires that come from metals. To be surprising that how can the metal catch fire?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes, we have metals that can catch fire, just like aluminium.
Okay. Okay.
Aluminium can catch fire. And when this kind of metals catches fire, there are some kind of extinguisher we use also, because when you use some extinguisher, it causes more havoc. Like I said earlier, the extinguisher that are universal in nature is DCP. It can quench anyone because it's a powder. It's powdering in nature. So it's a chemical and a very, very powerful one, and also very, very easy to kill.
Interesting. Okay.
It's poisonous.
Okay.
So now we can use DCP to quench that kind of fire, and also we can use what is it called, water to quench it, but water extinguisher to quench it, and also CO2 to quench it, to quench fire from metallic materials. Okay. Now the last classes of fire are electric fires.
Okay.
Now that one we must be very, very careful, because when there is fire outbreak from electric outlet, don't carry water to that place,
so it will shock
so that you another thing that will not happen. So in that kind of what is it called, we look for the source of that thing, and when in a situation whereby you cannot get to the source,
exactly, what will you do?
you use CO2 extinguisher, because you point at it. You just point it at it like this, then you shoot it, then you use DCP also. The only thing and the most extinguisher that is around us that we can use is sand.
Yes, sand. Most people use
dried sand.
Yes.
Not wet sand. Because when you use wet sand, you cause another thing.
Okay.
So those are the classes of fire. Anything that can cause fire falls under these 5 categories.
So that means handling fire, you have to be very careful.
Very, very
because
careful.
everything is delicate.
Very, very
even
delicate.
down to the mildest extinguisher, you have to be very careful while using it.
Yes.
Okay, now, and your CDS group, you go around creating this awareness, sensitizing people, and I know that you will be needing lots of materials and everything. How do you go about this sensitization?
God has been helping us.
Okay.
But the only challenges we have is the main in every situation. The first challenges is finance.
Yeah.
Because all these materials are very costly.
They are expensive.
They are very, very expensive. So but with the help of our CDS member, through contributing, we are able to come up with something, but not to expectation so far, because we want to use it for just practical, to show how to use it, quench fire to people. So these things are the ones that we just use, and not, we can't, there are some materials that we can't get.
Yeah.
So
true.
But the little ones that we are able to get, we make use of them.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, your CDS group is really, really trying. You guys are working. Thumbs up. You guys are really trying.
Thank you very much.
So now to the next question. Now, you create awareness, and how often does this sensitization go on, and where do you guys go for this sensitization?
It depends. The first sensitization we went is to go to fire service at Abbey. That's when that's where they impacted us.
Interesting.
Because virtually all of us, except for people that are into engineering, knew something about fire.
Okay.
But virtually most of us are not into engineering. So we have to go to fire
Then-
service so that they impact us, then we'll go out. So the places that we normally go are marketplaces,
Okay.
which is the most
Yes,
important
very,
place
very
to go.
important. Yes.
Marketplaces, garage, then schools.
Oh, okay.
So those are the places, especially most organizations have fire
Fire
extinguisher,
extinguisher, yeah.
but
They don't know how
they
to-
don't know how to use it. That was the very first thing that one of our members said at that day, that in their office they have fire extinguisher, but it has
They don't
used
know how.
yes, some will expire there without usage. So, and with that sensitization, people get to know how to use them. In case there is fire outbreak, one of the workers will be able to use it.
Okay.
So those are the help of our sensitization out there.
Wow, like this is so interesting and exciting, because I've learned a lot. Now I understand that it's not ideal to use ordinary water to quench fire. And even if you are using water mixed with detergents, make sure you look for the source of that fire so that you will not cause more havoc. Thank you so much, Mr. Damilare, for that session. I really learned a lot, and I hope you did too at home, because fire outbreak is something that you cannot predict when it will happen. It can happen anytime. But I hope with these few points that Mr. Damilare has given to us, you now know how to handle fire disaster whenever it comes up. Thank you so much, Osun State Broadcasting Corporation. We know we don't have time to always express ourselves, but for these few minutes, we are so grateful. And to the editorial team, thank you. And to my viewers at home, without you, there will be no Ajuwaya. Thanks for always viewing. Do join us next week, same time, same station. I remain your host, Precious Ahmed. Do have a lovely Thursday. Bye for now.